I want to get this right out of the way, kicking off the video. This is entirely speculation. 2024 has been an interesting year for the Bionicle community specifically because there have been so many people who have pushed the idea of a Bionicle G3. We've seen hints of it time and time again, several instances, several rounds of these hints coming out this year. And I don't specifically know why, but if we're going to feed into that speculation for a moment, I'm not going to do what others have done. Many people have been pointing to things that like Lego has put out or affiliates of Lego have put out with Bionicle stuff sort of in the background, in the media somewhere. And it maybe drops a hint that, hey, maybe they're working on this in the background. That's possible. That's absolutely possible. We know that themes like this are usually in development for multiple years on end. So it's a possibility. But there is something special. This weapon, right here. This is introduced for the Seabound line from Ninjago back in, I believe, 2022, but quote me on that if I am wrong. And what's fascinating about this little piece right here is it sort of bucked a trend. It felt for a while after CCBS's demise, ultimately in 2018, like Lego was not looking back, destroying many of the pieces that we knew. In fact, most, if not any, of those pieces saw use ever again after 2018. It really felt like a nail in the coffin for these large construction figures that we once knew and loved, Bionicle included, of course. But then, as I mentioned, that Seabound wave introduced this right here. Now, on its own, this is not special, but 2024 saw something else. This right here. This is special. This is entirely subjective, of course, but I say it's special because it does something different from any other large figure weapon that Lego currently has in production, and it is in production. It's not a blade, it's a hook. Definitively, this is a hook. Why is that special? Hook-type weapons are not the most common thing for Lego, especially something this large. And as of this moment, this is exclusive to the Ninjago theme. 3 sets in total, 2 of these pieces in each of those 3 sets, all in pearl gold. None of that particularly matters. But if they're going to go out of their way to make this part, of course, they're going to make the most of it, introduce it to a bunch of sets, and it works well within them. Why do I bring it up? Are they going to just keep it in one color? Are they going to just keep it in this wave only, and we never see it again? That's possible. That's absolutely happened in the past when it comes to Bionicle, when it comes to CCBS, and so on. But this does something else. It carries over a bit of the design philosophy behind this piece. And ultimately, everything I'm going to be showing you in this video carries over to some degree some of this design philosophy. Very smooth shapes overall. The speculation in this video is about Bionicle weapons specifically. If Lego was going to bring back Bionicle, I think it's inevitable that it would be the original Toa. In what form, I don't know. In what story, I don't know. But ultimately, at least from a marketing standpoint, at least from the sake of, well, 2026 is the 25th anniversary of this theme that changed the world, right? It would make sense that the Toa Mata, in whatever form, would get some kind of recognition for that. And I believe that that is the case here. This weapon right here is a hook. Galimata carried a hook. But of course, that's one weapon type from 2001. We had some pretty interesting weapons come out that year. What about claws? None of the large figure weapons that we have at this moment are claws at all. I beg to differ. Sort of. We're stretching things a little bit with this build right here. But this is not out of the question. This is maybe the simplest way to build a claw reminiscent of Legos. It is 6 pieces, 3 blade pieces, 3 other pieces, all available in black minus the blades, of course, and it would be very easy for Lego to recolor those pieces as well to give us full-on black claws. And these are quite large, of course, this claw, much bigger than Onua's originally, but so is this hook here, so we're starting to see a bit of a pattern. Let's move on for a moment, though, shall we? As we move past this piece, we now see this one here, introduced much earlier than 2024, but ultimately in 2024, we would see a new variant of it, dark red and trans orange. And I will argue that that's an unnecessary recolor. It's not. I mean, in the sets it belongs to are both fire-themed sets. It makes sense, absolutely, to be in dark red and trans orange, but also it would make sense in those sets to use maybe a gold Trans orange already exists, so I mean, you're just bringing it back out of production. Why not, The other set, both of these sets, I should mention, one is from Marvel, one is from Ninjago, once again, the Source Dragon of Motion. So it's an interesting recolor for those sets. It makes sense. It doesn't feel out of place for them. The dragon is red. The other character is a fire-based character, so it's not an out-of-the-question recolor, but we move on from here. Easily a Toa Tahu type of weapon, though the version of it shown on screen is just solid dark red. That is inaccurate. But we move on for a moment to this weapon right here, still in production, would have been, I believe, well, not retired, but would have seen a maybe year-and-a-half hiatus had it not been for a set coming out for the Dreams line. Also a fantastic looking set, by the way, though I don't remember the name of it. I did make a video on it earlier this year, and it came back for us in Trans Dark Pink. That said, though, this version also exists. As of this moment, I don't believe this one on screen is in production, but again, once you've made a piece in a specific color, it's already pretty easy to bring that color back for several reasons, but I won't get into too much of that here. But ultimately, this is an ice weapon. I mean, it's a crystal weapon, sure, but it's an ice weapon quite easily. Crystals, ice, it's kind of the same thing if you think about it. But of course, Kopaka does not only carry an ice weapon, or really ever carry an ice weapon, he also carries a shield. And I do find fascinating that after over 10 years at this point, this piece is still in production. It doesn't see that many uses per year. Some years go without using it at all, but it did see a recolor this year in 2024 for a junior set, no less, in this color right here, medium azure, which, by the way, if you've never paired medium azure with white, you were really missing out. It is a fabulous combination of colors. But this also is a reasonable match. Not the same. This is trans blue and not solid opaque blue, but it's similar. And it makes me think, okay, maybe LEGO might be toying around with the idea of multiple color sets. It would make sense after all. So again, entirely speculation, but a lot of fun. Now this next weapon, this one's going to be a little bit more controversial, not because of what it is, but because this one is not technically retired. It just has not seen yet use in 2024. This weapon right here came out in 2023 for the Monkey Kid theme in pearl gold, and this color, this lovely shade right here, trans bright green, the same as this color as well. Although this one might be frosted. I don't own the piece in that color currently. But it has the swirls. It's a fairly smooth blade shape. Overall, this is very clearly an easy choice for a Liwa type character. Obviously, it's not an axe, and you might mix the axe. I'll maybe come back to that in a separate video, but still here, we're seeing a pattern, right? You've got a weapon that very easily could be used on an air character, a fire character, of course, an homage to the original hooks. You've got an ice character themed weapon very easily here as well. And these, of course, aren't all. This weapon on its own isn't themed like anything specific, more a tool in the vein of the hook than in the sort of elemental designs of the other three weapons, but also similar to the hook, having those swirls being very easy to build into claws like this. I don't know, man. Okay, Pohatu. This is definitely the most difficult, and in fact, could easily be a brand new piece rather than the piece I'm about to show on screen, because this piece maybe feels the least likely. And I will fully admit that. But the reason I popped this one up on screen, for one, it's very easy to connect two parts. There are two variants of it, of course. This version right here having the pins at the very top and shaped slightly different from the CCBS version that we saw on some Star Wars sets. Either version could work, absolutely, but I do think when you look back at the shield we saw for a moment, begging to have a print on it, this piece could very easily carry a print on it as well and be paired quite easily over the shoe, foot, whatever, of these Toa characters. So, what would Bionicle G3 look like? We don't know. Nobody knows. LEGO maybe, if they're working on it in the background. It's possible. It is possible. But I wouldn't be surprised to see some aspects of Generation 2 come back. And what I mean by that is some design ideas, right? Generation 2, unlike Generation 1, did play around with prints quite a bit. For better or worse, I did absolutely love the prints and the idea of the prints, the sort of tribal-esque mechanical prints from Wave 1 specifically. And I could see something like that, maybe to a lesser degree, appearing on these characters as well. Maybe hybridizing them with the current construction type large figures that we have at the moment, but building them with a little bit more technique or a little bit more emphasis on some play features of some kind. I don't know, man. And then we move on lastly to a weapon that would be, well, not belonging to any figure specifically, but could easily replace a Liwa weapon. This one, of course, still being in production in 2024. So outside of just this weapon on screen, all of the others have seen use in 2024. This one does have holes in it. You could pretend, although it's sort of a digitalized aesthetic because that, the wave it came out in, you could easily pretend that maybe there are holes flying through an airstream or something like that. It's got this very straight laminar shape to it because of what it is. You could make this work for an air-based character. And lastly, when we move on from this one, we have this weapon right here. This one I think works best for an evil character, so it's possible that we see an evil character. But again, notice everything that I've talked about here is still in production in 2024 or at the latest in 2023. More large weapons. I want to say, in fact, more large weapons than we've ever seen when there hasn't been a Construction brand on shelves. And I'm not considering Construction currently in the system form because you can consider that they are figures after all that you build, that you construct, right? So yeah, but when I say Construction, I'm talking about CCBS, Bionicle, etc. Outside of Bionicle's run, outside of CCBS's run, we really very rarely saw large weapons in production. And now we have so many of them in production. It feels strange, and it all started with this. Maybe because of this. Was this the plan all along? Probably not. Is this even going to happen? Probably not, but it's not impossible. And I don't want to instill any sort of false hope in anybody, but I thought this was an interesting topic to cover because it is very different from just speculating, from just thinking maybe. The hints are there. This is there. That's there. Lego's dropping hints left and right. People associated or affiliated with Lego or working with Lego or whatever are dropping hints left and right. And that's not how any of this works. But this, putting out molds that could easily be used for Bionicle, that, if anything is proof, that's the closest I think that we have. If that's what you got to go on, it can be fun. So don't let this get your hopes up necessarily, but do let it start a conversation down in the comments below. Of course, try to keep this one civil. I know there are a lot of people who will watch this video and say, Bionicle's never coming back, get over it. And that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. The whole point of this video is to have fun. I am over it. I do not expect Bionicle to come back. I don't have my hopes up, but it is a lot of fun to dream, a lot of fun to imagine. And remember, this theme has been important to the lives of thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and at some points even millions of people out there. So although you might think, well, Bionicle isn't going to come back, so you should just stop talking about it, this is a space that is safe for Bionicle fans. This is, after all, essentially a Bionicle YouTube channel at this point, no matter how much I want to deny it. That's it for this one. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe. It, of course, helps the channel out tremendously, and it really helps the algorithm. Plus, we are very close to hitting 3,000, I believe, 600 subscribers, which is fantastic. I know we took a bit of a hiatus this year for a while, for a couple months, and YouTube does not like that, but you guys have been there all the way, really just helping support. I love that. Of course, if you want to help support the channel, you can also check out the Patreon down in the description below. And ultimately, just check out those comments. I really want to know your opinion. What do you think is the best hint of Bionicle being possible, returning at some point in the next, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years from now? I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.